It's 11:59 at Gun Owners Radio, and this is the Penn Patriot, music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, and another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind American lines, this is your song.
Now it's time for our gun truth of the week.
Gun truth of the week. Okay, this is a really cool one. I like this a lot, and it was inspired by a speech I saw from Robin Sandoval from A Girl and a Gun when I was in Salt Lake City at GRPC, Gun Rights Policy Conference from Second Amendment Foundation. Okay, so this comes to us from Robin Sandoval, founder of A Girl and a Gun, from her speech at GRPC. Almost half of all new gun owners are women, and 70% of women with CCWs obtained them within the last 5 years. Why did they obtain them? Well, some CDC stats may clue us into why. Turns out that 1 in 4 women experience severe physical violence from an intimate partner. 1 in 10 women have been sexually assaulted. 1 in 7 women have been stalked. This is clearly a reason that gun ownership and carrying a firearm, obtaining a CCW, is extremely popular with women these days. And it should be, and it's totally understandable. So like we always say, get a gun, get training, get a permit, and carry a gun everywhere you can. And that is your gun truth of the week. So if you are a woman who is interested in learning more about firearms, like I said, that these statistics were quoted by Robin Sandoval, A Girl and a Gun, and we, of course, have Dakota here.
Hello.
You are, what's your exact title in A Girl and a Gun?
I am the facilitator of the San Diego chapter of A Girl and a Gun, and I am on the National Advisory Board.
And is San Diego, as far as size, are they a big chapter? Are they a little chapter?
Yeah, we're the largest chapter. Thanks for that layup there.
Congratulations.
Thank
so
you.
how do people get involved in A Girl and a Gun, whether they're in San Diego? Well, why don't we start nationally? Just give us, nationally, anyone listening across the nation, how do they get involved?
Yes. So no matter where you live, go to www.agirlandagun.org. And on that homepage, if you just scroll a little bit down, you will see a bunch of different options for things that you can click on. One will say find your instructor. That will help you find a chapter near you. If you keep scrolling down, it'll kind of walk you through some of the types of events that we have. But the first thing that I would do is see if you have a chapter near you. So if you go to the Find a Chapter tab at the top, you can click on that map and you'll be able to see a full list and locations of all of the chapters in the country. So if you have one nearby, definitely reach out to the facilitator, join that chapter. But if you don't have one near you, there is an option to join our virtual chapter. We have an e-chapter that you can join that is for folks who don't live close enough to a physical chapter. That virtual chapter is a phenomenal place to start. You will get emails. There are Zoom calls with ladies from all across the country. The facilitator of the e-chapter does little challenges. You guys get different drills that you can go to the range and practice on your own. And then every member of every chapter across the country, including the e-chapter, get access to our virtual Girls' Night Outs, which are twice a month. And those are taught by Tatiana Whitlock, who I think you've had on the show before I was on the show.
Yeah, well, she was a speaker at one of our fundraising events, too. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal instructor. And so she is the instructor for the virtual Girls' Night Out, and then the second one is taught by one of the facilitators across the country. So even if you don't have a physical chapter near you, you can still get a lot of really quality education. And then for the San Diego chapter, if you're interested, I think Rich showed it up on the screen there, but there was a link that had my name on it. You can just email me or send me a text message at that number. Happy to answer any questions you have. You don't have to be a member to come to your first event. You can try it out for free at or not for free, but you can try it out without paying for the membership if you want to just see if you like it first. And so that's always an option as well. And membership is just $50 a year for all the chapters.
That's awesome.
If you're a member of one, you're a member of all. So,
and if you're a brand new shooter, you've never touched a gun before, and you're a woman and you want to give it a try, you can just show up at A Girl and a Gun, and they will take you by the hand and help you out from soup to nuts.
Yeah.
Even if you decide, hey, you know what, this might not be for me. Okay, fine.
Yep.
Or you decide, hey, I want an intro, and then I want to go even further.
Yep.
You guys do that as well.
Yeah, so like last night we hosted a handgun safety and fundamentals class, and we provide everything, the ammo, the guns, the eye and ear protection, like anything you could need to have a good experience. We give it all to you. We do like an hour in the classroom, talk about safety, make sure everybody's feeling comfortable, and then we spend an hour on the range. And that's just our intro event. If you want to get your concealed carry, if you want to start competing, like we'll take you all the way to wherever you want to go with shooting.
That's awesome. Well, fantastic. We also have we started a program that is has a similar goal, but a little bit different crowd. If you are a woman and you just want to take the mystery out of shooting, you've never tried it before, and you just kind of want to put your big toe into the deep end of the pool, we have a program called Not Me. Not Me California is our website. It's actually notmeca.org, and we just refreshed that website. We wanted to show you what it looked like here because we're very, very proud of it. Basically, if you are a woman and you want to have a first-time shooting experience and you want to get a gun and you want to get a permit so that you can carry a gun outside of the home, we have a program that will take you there. And the idea is we want to make sure that your self-defense is not cost prohibitive. We want to make it easy for you, and if you can't afford it, we want to find a discount or a grant to make sure that you can get the training, you can get a firearm, and you can get a permit, and all that is available to you. The idea of Not Me is that we want to prevent sexual assault and domestic violence by making sure that every woman can defend herself with the most effective self-defense tool ever created. So this is notmeca.org. It's a 501c3. Join the movement to end violence against women. Your support funds real training and real results, giving women the tools to stand up, stay safe, and say, not me. So check out the website, page down a little bit.
Not only do it's Not Me all the great things that you mentioned, Mike, but don't forget to mention too that they also get paired up with a mentor that's a one-on-one experience should they need hand-holding through any part of the process. So they have a one-on-one contact.
Yeah, if you're a woman who wants more information, you contact us. Fill out on the website here. In general, tell us what you're looking for, and we'll pair you up with a woman who will hold your hand through the process. So if you need a gun, she'll help you purchase a firearm. If you need training, she'll make sure you get the training. If you just have a couple of questions that you need answered, great. Email us, and we'll get you taken care of. It's turned into a really cool program. We've had over 1,400 women go through the program. It's very hands-on. It is what you make of it. In other words, we kind of custom fit it to your needs. So there's Desi right there standing with San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan. Desi on the right. Desi runs the program, and we invite you to check out the website today. So go to notmeca.org for more information, or if you know a woman who needs this type of information, by all means share. Or if you want to support us, then by all means go to our website, make a donation, and help us make sure that we can help women afford self-defense. So there you go. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to gunownersradio.com. Follow us on youtube.com/gunownersradio. And don't keep us a secret. Tell all your friends about us.
Remember that we are not lawyers, and nothing that we say is to be taken as legal advice. Our sponsor, John Dillon, is a lawyer, And he has been helping to fight those gun violence restraining orders, GVROs, and more. So if you know somebody that's had their self-defense rights taken away without due process, give John a call. His website is dylanlawgp.com, and his phone number is 760-642-7150.
So recently it was brought to my attention by one of my students who used to live in Contra Costa County and had a CCW there that she wasn't allowed to carry a red dot on her pistol. It was completely not allowed by that county, and I was shocked by that. Honestly, I was like, I don't know that you're right. And so I went and looked it up, and she was absolutely correct. The actual policy for Contra Costa County states that you cannot carry a weapon-mounted light, you cannot have a red dot or a mounted optic on your handgun, and I thought that was so draconian and crazy, considering that most law enforcement at this point in California are allowing red dots on their pistols. We're seeing a huge change in that, and lots of officers have weapon-mounted lights on their duty guns. So I thought, I wonder what their reasoning is for this. And, I called the CCW desk at the Contra Costa Sheriff's Office, and I had a conversation with the woman who answered the phone, just very nicely asking, hey, I realize you guys have a policy against red dots. Do you have anything written anywhere about the reasoning behind this policy? And she said, no, it's just our policy. This is how we do it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if anybody that works in the CCW office would have a little bit more context. I'm really interested in hearing more about why this isn't allowed. And she told me, well, this policy is not up for debate. So I don't know.
It's not up for debate.
Yeah, it's not up for debate.
I wonder
it's just our policy.
What her position is, that she gets to decide what is and isn't up for debate.
Yeah.
That's interesting that the person with that much authority is answering the phone.
It was very interesting to me. The whole thing was very interesting. She was very defensive from the beginning. And actually, I told Mike this. I wasn't even going to talk about this on the show. I was actually just curious, how the heck do they have this policy? So I'm asking a couple other questions. She's not answering them. She's telling me that, basically that I shouldn't be asking. And then she says, well, are you actively a permitted CCW in Contra Costa? And I said, no. She said, oh, are you applying? Are you an applicant? I said, no. She said, well, then why do you care about our policies? I said, well, because I might someday move out of California and perhaps I would want a non-resident permit in Contra Costa County. Can't I ask a question? And she goes, no, I don't understand why you're curious about this. And my lieutenant probably won't want to talk to you, but I'll pass your name and number along. And then she basically hung up on me.
So we found it turned out this is so ridiculous. I got to tell you guys, it's so ridiculous the way that some of these law enforcement agencies act and their employees and what they get away with. It's almost like we work for them. So we found out that it's Contra Costa, and then Alameda recently changed. You said you read that.
Yeah, Alameda in September, I think, made it so that they can't have weapon-mounted lights or dots on their guns.
And Alicia, you were saying that you've seen a bunch, or at least a handful of other counties.
I have. With California now being forced to issue out-of-state resident permits, different counties are now seeking to become approved vendors through other counties to try to get a share of the pot. And as part of that, I've been doing some research in other counties, and I was honestly surprised at a lot of the restrictions that a lot of counties had. We thought, California is a tough state. The laws are strict. Well, I didn't realize how actually lucky we were here in San Diego County. Number of guns on a permit is unlimited. We don't. Mm-hmm. We allow red dots. There's a bit of a hang up with lasers on the qual and things like that, but you're allowed to have them on the gun. I thought we were pretty limited, and I honestly was really surprised at the number of limits other counties are putting on in a variety of different ways.
So if I could toot my own horn real quick, that's because of San Diego County gun.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Thank you.
We had a direct impact on all of it.
Yeah.
Those were all conversations that our organization had and changed things, but it's easy to forget the stupid crap that everybody else is going through.
Well, when I became a vendor for San Diego County, it was still not allowed to have a red dot.
Right.
And so that was a fairly recent, last 2 or 3 years change. But I thought it was so interesting, Contra Costa, I think, was one of them, but they only allow 2 handguns on your permit, period, total. And then two. Yeah, I'm like, that's a tough decision to make.
Yeah,
Which 2 guns am I going to carry all the time?
Yeah, it's like picking your favorite kid.
But the other thing that I just thought, and actually I brought this up to her. Our conversation was maybe about 10 minutes, so I summarized. But I brought up to her, a lot of handguns now are coming with optics already attached. That could be that person's only firearm,
Right.
and you're telling them that they're not allowed to carry it. And she was like, well, it's just our policy.
Yeah,
She kept
it's just our
repeating that.
policy.
Yeah,
So,
not up for debate, just our policy. So I'm still on pins and needles hoping that lieutenant calls me back, because I'd really like to hear the reasoning.
Just food for thought. Other restrictions and Contra Costa in particular, because here's what I found in my research. They have, as you mentioned, a max of 2 guns allowed on your permit. Okay, not only that, but they do not allow a single action only firearm. For example, in 1911,
Okay.
not allowed. And they do not allow derringers, no flashlights and lasers, as we've already discussed, and they limit you to calibers between 32 and 45. So they
Interesting.
have a caliber limitation as well, and it gets even worse. But wait, there's more. They have an allowable barrel length between 1.875 and 6 inches. So anything, I don't know many people are going to carry anything above 6, but if you were to go below 1.875, it is not allowed on your permit. And they do inspect your firearms.
Some of that probably doesn't affect a lot of people, but the
It may
red
not.
dots and the lasers and the lights,
Flashlights, yeah.
that absolutely affects, and it's going to continue to affect more and more people.
Mm-hmm.
I found an article on The Truth About Guns by an attorney I actually just met at GRPC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do my best. Constantinos Moros,
Good job.
wonderful attorney. He says, and these are not direct quotes, he summarizes the reasoning, because he actually did talk to Contra Costa County, and he said that permittees could use inferior accessories that aren't subject to vetting and could hinder the performance of the firearm. That's one of the reasons that they limited lasers and flashlights. So they're worried about the inferior accessories.
Yeah, as I mentioned to her when I was on the phone with her, then why does the same sheriff allow his deputies to carry guns with red dots?
Well, because some are a little bit more equal than others, aren't they?
Cool.
The other thing is, okay, let's say they are using inferior accessories. Then list non-inferior accessories that are acceptable. There's so many ways they could have handled this.
And they do inspect guns as part of the permit issuing. Let that be part of your inspection.
There you go.
Yeah, is
Problem
it
solved.
inferior? Yeah. I like that. That's fine.
Right.
I mean, I don't like that they're inspecting your guns, but whatever. Like if they're gonna do it, like let's have it be a little bit more fair. I think the caliber restriction is actually kind of a huge deal, because
let's keep going. Let's get back to that real quick.
Okay.
But there's 3 reasons here. Without proper training, the attachments can make a smooth weapon draw difficult, endangering the individual in a deadly force encounter. Okay, well,
so now they care about our safety and self-defense moments.
If you put time into your technique, you learn how to properly draw.
well, that's
If you're going to have an issue with your draw, you're going to have an issue with your draw
Yeah.
because you not put time into it, and that's not an equipment issue.
if you pass the test, you pass the test. What if I do have proper training and it
Right.
doesn't inhibit?
Right.
Again, they could have handled this so many different ways, and they picked the exact wrong way to handle it. And then number 3, the attachments make carried handguns harder to conceal. Okay, what if it doesn't make it harder? You know what I mean? This whole thing smacks of just absolute ridiculous. Contra Costa County's sheriff is a guy named David Livingston, by the way. And he is dead ass wrong on this. This is the stupidest thing and the stupidest way to handle this thing. It was kind of confusing, though. I was reading it on the website. It says firearms with attached laser sights, flashlights, red dots, and sighting systems are not accessible. Glow-in-the-dark or luminescent sights are acceptable. And then later in the website, it said fixed or adjustable sights. Luminescent sights are acceptable. Add-on optics are not permitted. It was a little confusing on, did he mean during training or at all? And
No.
it looks like it's at all.
At all.
Yeah, they can't go put a dot on their gun later and then carry that gun.
But his deputies can.
Yeah, yes. Well, actually, I never read a policy, but I saw photos.
Yeah.
I went on their Instagram or Facebook or something, and I found some pictures of Contra Costa sheriffs, and some of them had dots on their gun.
It's such FUD. It's such ridiculous. This is so, guns for me and none for thee. And we have to stop accepting this stuff from law enforcement.
Yeah.
Law enforcement, when it comes to the Second Amendment, time and time again, we have been reaching out to them and saying, hey, we're all in this together. and time again, on an institutional, on a broad basis, they've said, no, we're not. We're not in this together at all. That doesn't mean you don't know a deputy or a police officer who, isn't or is pro Second Amendment. I'm sure there are plenty of them. But institutionally, on a broad level, from a high level, law enforcement, they're not in this with us. They continue to work against this. They continue to have horrible policies like this. So what were you going to say about the caliber thing?
Well, I just was thinking about how many people I have qualified who are particularly older women who have arthritis or issues with their finger strength and things like that, who are only able and capable of shooting a .22. That's like the only firearm that they can actually safely handle. So to force them to go up in caliber to something that they're not going to be able to safely handle is crazy. So all of these people who are not really interested or capable, physically capable of handling a 9mm or a 38 or whatever, they just can't carry a gun. They just can't protect themselves. I wonder if the reasoning there is that 22s aren't as effective in self-defense, but regardless, they're more effective than not having a gun.
Yeah, if you're robbing, Alicia, if you're robbing somebody, like you tend to do, right? If you're out mugging somebody
Daily.
and they shoot you with a .22,
Right.
Are you going to stop robbing them or are you going to continue to rob them?
It's either going to be a psychological stop or it's not. It's going to be, you know what I mean? You're absolutely right. A gun is better than no gun.
Yeah, and a .22.
Right.
22s have killed plenty of people.
Now, is it ideal? No.
Yeah.
But if it's what you can have and if it's what you can run, then it's what you need.
You know what we should do? We should challenge Contra Costa County Sheriff David Livingston to a shoot-off.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
That would be so fun.
I got to tell you, Sheriff, come on down, or we'll come to you.
Yeah, we'll come to you.
Let's go to a range, and if you can outshoot, either of these ladies, then boom. You should let your ridiculous, stupid policies stand. But if you can't, you should admit that you don't know what the hell you're talking about and stop preventing people from defending their life. I mean, this is just so ridiculous. It's so stupid that we have to continue to put up with this.
Well, and if it is a situation where the folks who made this policy, maybe this policy was made a long time ago, or maybe the people who are running your firearms division are older and not interested in getting dots for themselves or whatever. Yeah. I totally understand that. And this is a kind of new wave of like everybody going to dots and all of that. If it's a matter of education, we are happy to donate our time to talk to you about how to make sure an optic is mounted properly, how to make sure an optic is zeroed. We're happy to discuss that with your team, to give you guys input on why we think it's a good idea to have these types of options for people, how it actually makes your citizens safer because your concealed carry permit holders will have the opportunity to be better shooters than they can be with iron sights. We're seeing across the board in competition that dot shooters are outperforming iron sight shooters. We have plenty of evidence of this, plenty of data to back it up. So if you want your members of Contra Costa County to be safer, then we're happy to educate your team on why this would be a good policy change for you to make.
It really does. There really is. I mean, you're onto a really good. Obviously, I'm making fun of this guy, and he deserves it. But offer stands. Let's do a shootout.
Yeah.
I'm positive you're going to get your ass handed to you. I mean, there's no way you know about guns and are okay with this policy, and that's what you're talking about. That there's real world data and implications, but there's real world data. There's no way that somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to concealed carry, when it comes to firearms, when it comes to red dots and lasers, there's no way somebody educated on this, somebody who's up to date on this, someone who's familiar with what they're talking about, there's no way they made this policy.
Right.
There's absolutely no way that an educated, competent person made this policy.
And if you want to require iron sights as well, in case the optic gets, damaged or the battery's dead or it falls off the gun or whatever, sure. We could have suppressor sights as a requirement if you're going to use a dot. I'm okay with that. I think people should be able to make their own choices, but I recommend that to all my students.
They already don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so you're already way above their head. They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Mike's like, okay, stop talking.
Yeah,
Let's move on.
You've already confused them. They're glazed over. I seriously have this image. There's a boardroom in a Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department somewhere, and there's 8 guys that absolutely resemble Elmer Fudd sitting in there, you know, with like
Well, you know why they don't like lights, lasers, and
revolvers.
optics.
Why?
Because you can't put them on a revolver.
There you go.
I mean,
That's
So
good.
last thing we're going to say is, honestly, if you live in a county like this, our recommendation is that you go through the process without your lasers and flashlights and red dots, you know, and comply and do your thing. And then the second you get your permit, do what you need to do to defend yourself. In other words, put the red dot on, put the laser on, do whatever. Do not comply with his load of crap. But then when you go back, just know when you reapply and they inspect your firearm, you're going to have to take all the stuff off and, you know, comply with their ridiculousness. But day to day, when you're out defending yourself, if you need this to better defend yourself, then carry it. And if you think to yourself, well, gee, what if I get into an incident? If you get into an incident, there are big things going on in your life. So make sure that you don't comply with laws, or at least this policy. This isn't a law, by the way. This is his ridiculous power trip, you know, uneducated crap. So the worst that can happen is that you lose your CCW. But really, the worst that can happen is if you aren't effectively able to defend yourself, you could lose your life. So forget David Livingston, forget the other sheriffs that are doing this crap. Comply long enough to get your permit and then completely throw his crap right out the window. That's our recommendation from Governor's Radio. So there you go. All right?
So I'll say I rescind myself from that recommendation a little bit, because if you get in an incident, they will pull your permit and you will never be able to get a permit in Contra Costa County again.
Which is, yeah, okay, but if you get into an incident, you've just defended your life.
Yeah, but you can no longer defend your life in the future.
Fine, move to another state. But you know what I mean? Like, don't. The idea of continuing to carry a card, you know, you've
Right.
just defended your life. And oh, by the way, you can shove it right in that sheriff's face that, you know what? The reason I was able to defend my life is because while I was panicked, there's a red dot that helped me point my gun in the right direction and save my life. So what I'm saying is, now listen, if you're telling me that, hey, you know what? That red dot isn't the difference between life and death. Okay, then comply, you know, and worry about carrying that card around with you. But I'm positive, if it's just a preference thing, then worry about carrying that card around with you. But what I'm saying is, if the difference between life and death is your ability to, you know, pick up that red dot or turn on that flashlight, then don't comply with their stupid crap. That little piece of paper, there are other options for you. You can move to a different state. There are a lot of other options for you. But if you don't effectively save your life because you didn't have the right equipment, because Sheriff David Livingston doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, then screw Sheriff David Livingston. Okay, and carry the red dot, carry that flashlight. Your life is far more important. That's what I'm saying. So,
And if you live in a county that allows it, you know, you can still clog up their phone lines. You can still call Contra Costa County's CCW desk and ask them why they have the policy. And, you know, you can still send emails. The sheriff for Contra Costa said that he has a firearms committee he consults with on these things. And the firearms committee is made up of employees who are firearms instructors. If you know one of the Contra Costa firearms instructors, please send their info our way and we'll reach out directly with information about why that's a bad policy.
Yeah,
Or
and
reach out to me
and
directly and I'll do that.
if you know one of those folks on the firearms committee, you know, see if they have been able to catch that rascally rabbit yet too. It's so ridiculous. We got to stop pretending that they know what they're talking about or pretending that this is just another policy. Gee golly gosh, I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. That being said, I'm not sure if there's a lawsuit behind this or not. There's so many lawsuits in the queue that need to be fired up. This is simply a major, ridiculous hindrance. But anyway.
It would be nicer if we could just handle it directly from the community level with the sheriff than having to go through the legal system, obviously. You know,
Amen
like,
to that.
so
There you go.
let's save everybody money and do some grassroots stuff.
There you go. All right.
So when you're using it on your firearms, because it takes about 3 cleanings. So I like to say it's a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot process. much like seasoning a cast iron skillet. So you're going to field strip your firearm, break it down, and then you're going to put our product on piece by piece by piece, covering the entire firearm. Then you're going to take the barrel, you're going to clean the barrel inside of that, and then you come back and you wipe it all off, and you're done. It's that easy. Remember, seal one and done.
I do want to talk a little bit about a local victory. The city of Vista, they were looking to pass a resolution saying, hey, we support AB 1127, which, these non-binding resolutions, they're basically opinion pieces where they say, hey, we, the city council of whatever, in this case, Vista, we support the passage of, in this case, AB 1127. Part of our job is to make sure that culture changes along with public policy. So we are doing our best to make sure that public policy doesn't go against gun owners, but also when political people stand up and say, hey, yeah, we want to ban Glocks, well, that's culture. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we worked with Mayor John Franklin. We worked with a city council member in Vista named Jeff Fox, and they got it squashed. A number of people showed up and made statements, which is fantastic, but there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work to make sure that this resolution didn't even come up for a vote, which is very, very good. So in other words, Vista, the city of Vista, which is a major city, fairly major city in San Diego and in California, they were unable to support AB 1127. In other words, the governor of California is not going to get some kind of message from the city of Vista saying, hey, governor, we want you to sign off on AB 1127. AB 1127 will, in essence, ban Glocks, not the possession of Glocks, but it will ban people from future purchases of Glocks. If you have a Glock, you'll be able to keep it. There are still private party transfers that are available, and it's basically doing what the handgun roster did, where it kind of creates this gray market where police officers can still obtain Glocks, even though they're supposedly easily converted to machine guns, and they can still sell those Glocks for a premium during, via private party transfer. A lot of that's been muzzled, but it's still there. The ability to do that is still there. So AB 1127, where is it at? Well, it's waiting for the governor to sign, and there is something that you can do. If you go to gunownersradio.com, we want to show you a new tool that we created for you. gunownersradio.com/AB1127. Go to gunownersradio.com/AB1127. We want to show you our new engagement platform tool. So this is it. If you go to that website, this is what it's going to bring up. It's going to give a brief explanation on the left, and then on the right, it has wording already there for you. If you want to add something, by all means, you can add something, but we wanted to give you a template so that you could, at least make your voice heard if you didn't have time, or you weren't quite sure what to say. We wanted to make activism easy for you. So all you have to do, go to the website, it pulls this up. Then your next step is to go ahead and add your personal information so they know who it came from. So me, Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Schwartz, SCHWARTZ. My email, of course, michael@sdcgo.org. And then my address is 5694 Mission Center Road. Don't worry, that's just a mailing address.
Okay, I was like, what?
Yeah, come on down.
It's a party.
Yeah, that's in San Diego, California. 92108. That's actually the mailing address for San Diego County gun owners. So don't get too excited, folks. By all means, go on down and see the folks at the UPS store. I'm sure they'd be happy to see you. But it's just a mailing address. So that's me. Okay, now click on send email. And I already tried this. The next screen. So if you hit send, the next screen it'll say, "Hey, by all means, please consider a donation for our efforts." So this is the first of these engagement platforms that you're going to see, but we have made it easy. So go to gunownersradio.com/AB1127 and let the governor know that you do not like AB 1127. What do you guys think?
I think it's great.
It's awesome.
Making things easy for folks is always a good thing, right? You guys have no excuse now. You're already watching this on a device that has access to the internet. So go ahead and open that new tab and do it now.
There you go. What do you guys think of AB 1127? You guys big fans?
So excited.
No.
It's silly, isn't it?
So crazy.
Can I sign up now to be on the lawsuit?
Great.
Can I get ready? I'm ready.
We're all pissed.
Yeah, it's you know what it's doing is it's causing people to panic buy. You know, our 1 in 30 is gone. So I'll tell you, working at a shop, I see people buying Glocks now by the dozens.
Mm-hmm. Wow, really?
People are panic buying. You know, I can only imagine.
I don't even think it's panic buying. It's like
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, an opportunity to get a Glock while you still can. I'm definitely going to add a couple more to my collection before January.
And I see people buying them by the dozens in the same model. So I can only imagine, you know, the resale market at some point might be.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of private party transfers. Right. And I don't know what's going to happen. It doesn't take effect until July 1st of 2026.
And I will tell you, Glock is already stating that they are no longer going to. They're going to cease fulfilling orders to shops at some point. So don't be surprised if they can't.
Well, they have till January 1st.
Yeah, I thought the firearm had to be received by the dealer before January 1st, and then people of the public will not be able to after. Was it July 1st or June 1st?
Well, it goes into effect July 1st.
July 1st, okay.
But I will tell you, on this side of it, we've tried to order guns. Or I've tried to order guns for people that wanted them, and certain models you can't even order them anymore. It's already kind of done.
Great.
So.
Great. Well, again, making folks safe, right? This is obviously going to make people safe. If you can't defend yourself with the most reliable firearm out there,
I call it the Timex of guns.
Comments for that, but
I call it the Timex of guns. You know, it takes abuse and neglect and keeps ticking.
Yeah.
You know,
one of the things that does kind of make me giggle, it kind of tickles me a little bit, is that I bet in a little while we'll be able to make some cute infographics that we can tag Mom Demand Action and all those folks in that show the uptick in Glock sales for California the last couple months, and say thank you so much for passing legislation that encouraged so many folks to go out and get more guns. We really appreciate the hard work you put into encouraging people to go buy guns.
So Moms Demand Action is going to be the salesman of the year for
Yes.
Glock.
Oh, yes, I love it.
2026.
I'm already picturing
like
memes.
Obama was, a few years ago.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, there you go. All right. So again, gunownersradio.com/AB1127. Gunownersradio.com/AB1127. Go and fill that out today. So let's talk about 1791 Group. If your business is in the firearms industry, you've probably felt it. Marketing's expensive, social media is hostile, and it's far too easy to get lost in the noise.
The 1791 Group fixes that. They help you to cut through the clutter by clarifying your message so customers instantly understand why they should buy from you. Then they build the systems, your website, CRM, ads, and content that actually turn interest into sales. And because they understand the community, they can even get your brand in front of our gun owners radio audience, which includes over 100,000 engaged gun owners every month.
Don't waste another dollar on marketing that doesn't work. Go to 1791group.com, that's 1791group.com, and tell them Michael from Gun Owners Radio sent you. Start growing with a team that's on your side. Okay, deployment. There's a lot going on and we need your help. If you go to sdcgo.org/volunteer, you can help with all kinds of cool stuff. You can help get the word out and create activists and donors by signing up for our tabletops. We have a lot of different tabletops at gun shops and other events where we give literature and spread the word about the great activism that San Diego County Gun Owners is doing. You don't have to know anything. You don't even have to set anything up. All you got to do is say, hey, I'll be there and help. We have somebody who sets everything up and brings all the literature, and you'll never be alone. They're going to train you on how to talk to folks and how to say, hey, here's the literature or information that you need, or say, gee, I don't know, but we'll find the answer for you. So sign up for a shooting social to teach somebody to shoot for the first time, or sign up for a tabletop and help create activists. We want to make activism easy and effective, and these are some of the two best ways that we can do that. So that's the first thing I wanted you to know about. The other thing is I need you to mark your calendar and RSVP. San Diego County Gun Owners is turning 10. For our 10th birthday, we're going to have a party. So I got to tell you, I'm so proud of everything that San Diego County Gun Owners has done. Our birthday is on Thursday at 6. It's November 6th at 6 at Elijah's. We're going to have Mexican food and all kinds of fun and activities and folks that you can meet and talk to. It's going to be great. But we need you to RSVP so we know how much food to buy. So RSVP by going to sdcgo.org. San Diego County Gun Owners, 10 years, it's taught me so much about activism, about Second Amendment, about all the things that we've done, all the things that we've been able to do. I've been so proud of the fact that there are more people who are in office because of San Diego County Gun Owners. There are more people carrying a gun. There are more people training with a gun, who own a gun, who have a CCW. There are so many amazing things that we have helped push and be a part of. So come help us. Bring somebody who maybe has never heard of us or needs to become a member, and show them what a great community that we have we've developed. So there you go. November 6th at 6. Go to sdcgo.org to RSVP. Okay. We have our last first aid class of the year. It's happening on October 25th. Get your Red Cross first aid certificate that includes CPR and AED training, as well as your Stop the Bleed certificate. Honestly, this is really the type of training that everybody should have so that you can be a more prepared protector for your friends and your family and your community. All you got to do is sign up at gunownersradio.com. And then we also have our last of the year, Intro to Modern Off-Grid Communications. That's happening on November 8th. People are recognizing that this class is also fantastic for citizen journalists. Tired of getting filtered news and secondhand reports? Well, if you want the truth, you've got to gather it yourself. Join the Modern Off-Grid Communications class and learn how to become your own independent source of information, even when cell towers and internet and mass media go dark. You'll discover how to track real-time events, weather, and emergencies using proven off-grid tools. Be informed, be independent, and be ready. November 8th, go to gunownersradio.com to sign up. So there you go. We have volunteer opportunities for gun shop tabletops, for shooting socials so you can teach other people how to shoot. We have a 10th birthday coming up that you can come be a part of the celebration. We have a first aid class and a modern off-grid communications class, all coming up within the next less than a month. So all we need is you. So come on out, join us, get involved. We make activism easy. Okay, our guest is Second Amendment journalist AWR Hawkins. He writes for Breitbart. He's also a professor of history. He's out in Arizona, and I ran into him at GRPC last week in Salt Lake City and asked him if he'd come on the show and talk about what's going on in the Second Amendment world. If you're not familiar with AWR Hawkins, you have to be. His writing is crucial when it comes to Second Amendment activism. AWR, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Mike. Great to be with you, buddy.
Great to be with you. Thank you for all that you do, all the writing you do. You do enormous amounts of volume when it comes to writing about guns, Second Amendment issues, and all the above. What do you think right now is the most important thing for Second Amendment activists? What's the most important story right now?
I think right now the most important story is the movement we're seeing judicially. You have the Supreme Court just decided to take up a case on gun-free zones in Hawaii. You have cases in circuit courts challenging assault weapon bans, quote unquote, and you have a DOJ, for the first time in my memory, a DOJ taking part in some of those cases on behalf of gun owners, arguing against the quote unquote assault weapons bans. And so I think you take those kind of cases, and that Supreme Court acceptance of the gun-free zone case, and you take the great successes that Gun Owners of America, the Second Amendment Foundation, the NRA, and others have secured most recently, everything from the engaged in the business rule to other rules that the ATF just put in on their own. We're starting to see those either get nibbled at or thrown away altogether. So I believe what we're seeing happen in the judiciary is the biggest news I'm covering right now.
It is amazing. I think that, a lot of this started because of the Bruin decision, and it feels like this is what we thought was going to happen after the Heller decision, and it didn't quite happen. And then we thought it was going to happen after the McDonald decision, and it didn't quite happen, and it's really picked up steam, and then the Bruin decision just broke it wide open. What kind of feedback do you get from your writing? When you're writing about this, you have more material than ever before to write on. There's so much happening. What kind of feedback do you normally get? Well,
I mean, I get a lot of feedback. People ask different questions, wanting to go a little further with this or a little further with that. And, sometimes I don't go further because I don't want to get into guesswork. But when I can, I talk to them about whatever that deals with the case and whether I think there might be more to come there or whatever. And sometimes people know the application, like in the engaged in the business decision, that judge in that situation, said that rule won't be applied to NRA members. And so, you have different or Second Amendment Foundation members. I can't remember which group it was, but you have to understand when these rulings come down, what is the width of the ruling? What is the application of the ruling? Is it for all Americans? Is it only for the plaintiffs who brought the case? Is it for the plaintiffs and those who helped the plaintiffs? In other words, NRA or Firearms Policy Coalition or whoever. And so I'll have follow-ups like that to explain the scope of the ruling. And that's pretty common.
And, a lot of what you're doing, I'll tell you, you probably, I'm sure you remember, you came out to San Diego and you gave a fantastic talk on media. And it was one of the best talks, probably the best talk I've ever seen on media and Second Amendment in general. I really enjoyed it. What do you think the current state of affairs of media is? I mean, you gave that talk maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Or what's your take?
I think it's both, Mike. I think it's the new media like Breitbart and others. I believe that's so much better. And we have so many readers. We're about 90 million readers a month. And,
wow.
The reach is unbelievable. And, but at the same time, those vestiges of the establishment media, I can't figure it out, Mike. I got to be honest. They just keep lying. They keep pushing that same agenda. They keep pushing that same template. It's failed. It's old. It's tired, but they keep pushing it. And when I say they, I mean like a CNN and MSNBC, those kind of outlets. Mm-hmm. I watch how they frame things. They try their hardest to frame things in a way that make guns look bad or make gun owners look bad, so on and so forth. That's an old game. That's an old game. And I hope they stick with it because we're beating them at it. We're going to beat them even worse. But so what I would say to you to answer your question, in many ways, things are much better. But if you just look in isolation at the establishment media, they haven't learned a lesson yet. They're still going down the same path.
I don't really know what would teach them that lesson, to be honest. Do you have
I really
thoughts on
don't
that?
either. No, I mean, Trump just won last year and won every swing state. I would have stopped right there and gone, wait, maybe this message isn't working. But no, instead, you look at how they're handling everything, whether you talk about government shutdown, whether you talk about the war in Ukraine, whether you talk about anything. They are still approaching these topics the way they approached them under the Biden administration and during the presidential election of last year. They're still approaching it identical way, using the same language. And I'm just like, these folks don't learn a lesson.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
So, and it is, and they're creating an environment. You know, I think it's interesting that when I hear people complain about media, and it tends to come from folks that are generally on the right side of the political spectrum, they're not asking for more bias. In other words, they're not saying, "Hey, you need to be biased in the way that I want you to be biased." They're asking for truth. You know, they're asking for at least present both sides of the story and stop with the propaganda, which I don't think that gets enough discussion. The fact that the folks that complain about media aren't asking, "Hey, reflect my views. You know, say what I want you to say." They're begging for truth, and they're begging for
Right.
you know, just throw it down the center of the plate and give it to us straight so we can make our own decisions.
Right. I mean, and I remember that's what I like about working at Breitbart. I was going to do a reflection. I will. When I remember when I started teaching at the university after I finished my PhD, when I would teach on Ronald Reagan, who I happen to love, but when I would teach on him, I would try not to distort him in any way, even in my favor. I would just teach, and I thought, I'll teach the truth. The truth will teach the kids. And I think at Breitbart, I know that's our goal at Breitbart. We don't want to write opinion pieces, just present the truth, and the truth will teach the readers. And so I agree with everything you just said. And I do believe that's why, going back to the question about the establishment media, it's why they're not trusted, because everyone come into this, they are twisting it. They're twisting it to fit their template. They're twisting it to fit their agenda. Just report it. Just report it and let the truth teach the people. That's what we have to do.
Well, that's one of the things I really enjoy about your writing is that it's very fact-based. You're not, opinionated. You're not giving your opinionated opinions or whatever. That was a weird way to say that. You're not giving your opinions. And I think if you look up Breitbart on any of the all sides or PolitiFact or whatever, they'll always say, Breitbart has pants on fire, false articles, and they'll put you in that far right category. But when I read your articles, I'm like, what about this could be considered far right? You're explaining the way a bolt action rifle works, which none of the mainstream media is doing, right? They're just saying, oh, these big, long guns that are, bad. But you're giving facts that are helping people form their own opinions. You're not trying to make them think like you. So I find it really interesting the way that all of those, biased websites will kind of, push Breitbart as this far right, super conservative, lying, media source. And I don't see that at all when I read Breitbart.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And the thing is, when you cover those facts like you're talking about, you cover how a bolt action rifle works. You don't have to say anything else. Gun control is completely undercut when they see how rudimentary that is. And the reader's smart enough to do that. The reader goes, wait, this isn't a quote unquote assault weapon. This isn't a quote unquote firearm with quote unquote high capacity magazine. I mean, this is grandpa's hunting rifle. It might have been grandpa's World War II military rifle if he was on a lot of flat land and he was in a trench or whatever, but or not a trench, that's World War I. But my point is, these guns, we're talking about technology that's over a century old. But to your point, CNN's not going to do that because they don't understand. They don't know the difference between a Mauser and a Glock 17. They have no idea.
That is true. I've heard so many little snippets. They'll do compilations of news hosts on TV, just straight lying. And I feel for the people who are reporting because a lot of times they're just reading from a teleprompter. It's not their fault. Whoever is writing the teleprompter words has no idea about guns at all, but all of the times they say automatic weapons and all these things. It's like, well, no, that was a semi-automatic.
It really is bad. I was interviewed once, a reporter for a major news organization that I'm not going to name them because they don't deserve it. But they said, hey, we want your expertise. We want you to, talk about terms and that sort of thing. And then, I was all excited, like, hey, they want to get it right. Mm-hmm. So I gave them a bunch of time, and they wrote an article, and they absolutely got all the terminology right, and still bashed the crap out of guns and gun owners and gun ownership. And I thought, they just totally pulled the
made
rug
it-
right out from under me.
Made
It's
it a
like,
little foolproof for the
Yeah.
haters. Ugh.
which was, it's just so biased. AWR, you're in Arizona, and you and I saw each other in Salt Lake last week, and we talked briefly about Charlie Kirk. And I wanted to, you told me that it really had an effect on you. And some of the things that we're talking about here, creating an environment, and that sort of thing. I just wanted to see, could you tell us, how did that affect you, or what are your thoughts on that?
I could tell you honestly, I thought about it this morning. It's foreign to me to want to use any kind of weapon, firearm or not, and just take a life in cold blood. I can't wrap my head around that. My friends in law enforcement, both in 3-letter agencies and just beat cops, they all will tell me, they go, the criminal mind, you can't understand it. It's not like us. These people live in a completely different place mentally. And they've always told me that. And I'm still in a place where I can't understand it. And I was thinking about that this morning. Charlie was speaking, and then boom, he was gone. And I may have told you, Mike, I both was shocked and not shocked, because I look at the climate that's been created by the leftist rhetoric. And it's a climate where if you have a brain at all, you're going, something bad is going to happen. This is not good. There's too much pressure. It's boiling. Something's going to happen. This is a pressure cooker. But at the same time, when Charlie was speaking that day, I didn't think, he's going to get shot. And so, it's just a weird thing I can't wrap my mind around. And he and I were friends. We had done, I think, 3 interviews together. I'd been on his show before, and I'd interviewed him for Breitbart. And of course, I would see him at TPUSA events. We would speak. And, but even apart from that, even if we weren't friends, even if I just knew of him, I think it would have shocked me, because I don't know. I heard somebody say this, so I can't take credit for it. I'm not trying to take credit, but it kind of really was the JFK moment for the generations that are alive right now that weren't alive then. The assassination of JFK, it caused a lot of people to just lose their breath and just sit there and stare at the TV. And I think that's exactly what happened with Charlie. And it's just like, we've got to rein in. We've got to rein in this violent rhetoric, and it's just got to end. Got to be able to exchange ideas. I don't know. I'm sure, Mike, if you and I talk long enough, we disagree on some things, but I don't think we're going to handle it by being violent with one another. I think, we got to get back to the place Ravi Zacharias used to talk about, creating more light than heat. And that's what we need. When we talk, we ought to create more light than heat. And if you get in a conversation with somebody and it's all heat, get out of it. You're wasting your time, because no one's exchanging ideas right there. And those are just the things that I was reminded of again in the assassination of Kirk.
On the one hand, I'm very nonpartisan. Fairly nonpartisan. I mean, probably as nonpartisan as a Second Amendment person can get. And I try very hard to be nonpartisan. I criticize Republicans when they do something wrong and praise Democrats when they do something right. But I am unapologetically dealing with the reality that this violence issue, it's not equal. It's coming from the left. Right. And, it's not a matter of, well, gee, both sides have their whatever. It is so unequally, coming from the left that we absolutely have to talk about it. And I don't think that makes me partisan. And I don't think it makes us partisan to acknowledge that the left something needs to, they need to change. They have to change. Right. On the other hand, I wonder if it feels like a turning point, it feels like, or maybe a tipping point is more accurate. It feels like people from a bunch of different circles, have decided, hey, you know what, this is, we got to change. Something has to happen. I have to get more involved. I have to change the way I speak about things. But there's still some, some legacy problem causers. I was listening to Senator Warren talk about this budget issue, and didn't hesitate to say, hey, it wasn't just simply a budget issue, AWR. It wasn't just a matter of, hey, we're dealing with money and they think we should spend it one way and we think we should spend it another way. It was the Republicans are killing people.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a budget issue. So you still have these folks creating this environment where it's not just a matter of a disagreement, it's a matter of, they're evil, they're vicious and evil. I don't know. Do you think, obviously it's extremely sad and tragic and horrible, but do you feel like it's impacted people to make a positive change going forward? Or do you think we're still at this kind of this fetid stall when it comes to political discussion?
Right. Well, I think it's caused some people who are center or who are right or center right to make some changes, in that I actually believe they've become more vocal. And you see that with the expansion of so many new TPUSA chapters across the country. Mm-hmm. But I'm saddened when what you say, I don't see any change. I don't see the Elizabeth Warrens changing. They keep that tactic going. What people don't understand, to a normal human, what you quoted her as saying, they go, well, that wouldn't impact me. But see, the people who shoot the Charlie Kirks of this world aren't normal. They live their lives in online game rooms and online chat rooms. And when you have this lie being pumped in, Republicans are killing you, Republicans want to kill you. In their ulterior reality, it makes sense. If they're going to kill me, I'll just kill them, and people don't understand. We got some, for lack of a better phrase, we've got some weirdos walking around among us, and they're only a couple of steps away from doing some bad things. And they just need enough Elizabeth Warrens to convince them that it's time to do the bad things, and they'll do them. And so my answer to your question is no, I still don't see enough change, particularly on the left. The left has got to stop with the violent rhetoric, because and with the accusations that make it sound like Republicans are doing violence to people. It's just right. That's just not it. Like you said, we're talking about a budget. So let's talk about numbers. Let's make an argument. Why is spending money this way better than spending money that way? Let's handle it like that, without me being called a fascist and a Nazi and a killer. And most of the people calling me a fascist couldn't define fascism. If I promised them they'd get $1 million for doing it, they probably couldn't spell it. They definitely couldn't define it. So
you communicate for a living, and you're obviously pro Second Amendment. What do you recommend, or what advice do you have for people who care about the Second Amendment and want to have a positive impact on people who disagree with them, or maybe people who are real comfortable with calling us fascists and Nazis or whatever? What advice do you have for Second Amendment activists when it comes to communicating in this environment to affect a positive change? Well, sometimes I don't know if we can communicate. If you're with somebody, I had a talk with somebody about 6 weeks ago, and it was a woman, and I thought we were just having a regular talk, and she brought up something about a firearm, and she knew I was carrying a gun because someone had told her, but just carrying concealed, no problem. And she told me how uncomfortable she was that I had a gun with me. And I said, well, you and I have been in this restaurant probably who knows how many times over the last 17 years at the same time. I don't think you were ever worried about it prior to this. I said, this ideology is getting in your mind. Anyway, she starts screaming at me. Trump is a Nazi. Well, I hadn't brought up Donald Trump. I had not mentioned Donald Trump. We were talking strictly Second Amendment, a very rational talk. And what you do in that situation, in my opinion, I just walked away from her. I tapped her on the shoulder. I go, look, it was good talking to you. And I just walk away. And because there's no gain. You're not going to convince that woman of anything. She was so out of control, not quite screaming at the top of her lungs, but she was at the base of the steps at the top of her lungs. She was pretty loud. And there's nothing you can do there.
There's nothing. So I think that's one thing. If you're pro Second Amendment, if you get in there and you realize you're talking to somebody who has no intention of listening, no intention of contrasting ideas and trying to come to the truth, I don't think you waste your time.
Just
And
walk. Go
when
find
you find those few, now you will find some every now and then. You find some you can talk to. That's a great day. And I think you go into that with the mentality that maybe you're going to learn too. And, that old Indian proverb, when we teach, we learn. And so, you just get in there and you exchange ideas and you try to reach the truth. But if the other party isn't looking for truth, I abandon ship.
Well, I tell you, there's definitely a case to be made that right now is the time to organize people who agree with you rather than try to convince those who don't. It feels like there are too many people. If you're going to choose how to spend your volunteer time, how to spend your advocacy, maybe right now is the time to get folks who are sitting on the sidelines off the sidelines and have them do something productive rather than try to convince the other side that you're right. Maybe that's not where we are in history,
Right.
And there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of organizing that needs to be done. And frankly, in the last couple of weeks since, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there are a lot of people that want to do something effective. And, I saw it at GRPC. It was a wonderful event. Second Amendment Foundation put on a wonderful event. And the most common feedback I heard from others was they wanted more tips on what to do. What are activities? What can they actually do? So I don't know, AWR, maybe that's where we are. Maybe that's where we are in history, and maybe that's what we should be doing is stop debating and arguing with the other side, let them implode, which it seems like they're doing, and just get those who are looking to be productive and do good things and put the right tools in their hands and give them the right training so they can do things the way that America was designed to do things.
Right, I agree. Instead of debating, you can take someone shooting. It's very rare that you take someone shooting that they don't come out of that either wanting to go shooting again or wanting to buy a gun. And so, that's another approach.
That's a big advantage we have. I've said that before. It's a lot more fun to learn how to shoot a gun than it is to learn how to ban one. So.
Yes,
Wait, what were
definitely.
you about to say, Dakota? I'm sorry.
When I was a kid, we had a family friend, an older guy, who would debate with me just to teach me how to debate. And he told me that a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. And I'm sure a more famous person said that, and he probably was just quoting them. But it was a good reminder and something that I think of a lot. If I have to convince somebody to change their mind, they're going to leave the conversation with the same opinion.
Right.
And so I try to look at it from the perspective of this person that I'm having this conversation with likely isn't going to change their mind. But maybe the bystanders around the Thanksgiving table, the aunts and uncles who don't have a strong opinion about guns, maybe they observe the entire interaction and think that my side is a little bit more logical. Or, maybe that Facebook thread or that, social media post, people are reading those comments. And I see this on a pretty regular basis here locally in San Diego. If I have a conversation on our local women's Facebook group for the city of San Diego, there's 35,000 women in there. If somebody says, I was walking my dog and this homeless guy approached me and I was really scared, what should I do? If I start bringing up the concept of hey, maybe get some self-defense training, get some pepper spray, come shoot with me, I'll take you to the range, I get DMs because people are afraid to comment and say, oh, I also want to go to the range. So they'll DM me and say, I didn't want to say this out loud, but will you take me to the range too? And so I think we have this environment where people are afraid to even contemplate the idea that shooting could be a good solution for personal protection. And so I don't know. You the point of that, I guess, is you just never know who else you're impacting by having that debate or that conversation with someone whose mind will never be changed.
Right. I agree with you. That's a great example.
It is, and that's another thing is, stand up and be counted. Don't be afraid. Don't let this make you afraid, this horrible incident or this environment. Stand up and be counted. Now's the time to be proud and be brave. So don't let them. Don't let things intimidate you. And I got to tell you, we have a stronger community of Second Amendment folks locally and nationally than I have ever seen. So it's amazing. So any parting words, AWR?
No, it's been great to be with you all. I enjoyed the conversation. And I'm like you. I thought the GRPC was phenomenal this year. And I'm glad we saw each other there and glad we did this show together.
Good. Excellent. Where can people read more of your work?
Breitbart.com. They can follow me on X, AWR Hawkins. And that's it. But we keep the fight up together.
Great. Thanks. Don't forget to like and follow gunownersradio.com or go to youtube.com/gunownersradio and tell everybody about us. AWR, thank you for your work. Look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you. Good to be with y'all.
Take care. Boom.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. That was awesome.
Thank y'all. I got to get in here and type usual stuff.
Okay, my friend.
Have fun.
Thanks
See
for
ya.
spending the time. Okay, we've been talking about how Donald Trump, President Donald Trump's administration is, I got to tell you, probably the most Second Amendment friendly presidential administration in modern times. I mean, I don't know. I can't really think. Maybe going back to General Grant, the first president of the NRA. I don't know. I mean, it's been insanely. There's. I don't want to say. I don't want to do hyperbole. It's been great. It's been really great. Could it be better? Could be a lot better. But I've never seen anything like this. So this is the Chicago Sun-Times. Justice Department civil rights boss takes on Illinois' assault weapons ban. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon is challenging a signature accomplishment of Governor J.B. Pritzker and getting involved in a case that could go all the way to the Supreme Court. So this is the article from the Chicago Sun-Times that we're talking about. The Justice Department's top official in charge of civil rights has joined the legal battle over the Illinois controversial assault weapons ban and is expected to personally argue against the law this month before the Federal Appeals Court in Chicago. So they have an assault weapons ban. You got to do the air quotes, otherwise people will comment that I didn't do the air quotes. So there it is, assault weapons ban. They have a similar assault weapons ban in Illinois, and the Trump administration has someone who's in charge, an attorney who's in charge of civil rights, which includes the Second Amendment. Her name is Harmeet Dillon. She's actually from California, and she's actually going to court to argue in favor of getting rid of the assault weapons ban. In other words, the assault weapons ban in Illinois, in this case, is a civil rights violation. That is huge. No matter what happens from here, the fact that a DOJ civil rights attorney went to court and said, hey, your assault weapons ban is of people's civil rights is huge. It's extremely unusual for the Justice Department to treat Second Amendment rights as civil rights and advocate for them in such a direct and personal way. At the appellate level, this is from Hannah Hill, the vice president of the National Foundation for Gun Rights. They said this to the Chicago Sun-Times. This is a new step to actually ask for 5 minutes to participate in oral arguments. So it says here, Dillon is a longtime advocate for conservative causes and a former lawyer. For President Donald Trump, the Republican president nominated Dillon for her role in the Justice Department soon after he secured his second term in the White House last fall. This is awesome news. It's great news. I think we're going to see these assault weapons laws fall. They are clear violations. They're nothing more than gun bans with a fancy name, with a pejorative term. Assault weapons ban, assault weapon. There's no such thing as an assault weapon. It's not an industry term. And I tell people, in fact, I actually just got interviewed by a guy in college who was writing a paper on this. And the way I explain it is assault weapon is not an industry term. In other words, if I say, hey, if I tell 4 artists to draw a picture of a pickup truck. Pickup truck is an industry term. If they all draw a picture of a pickup truck, it will generally look the same. It's got an open bed, it's got a cab, it's got 4 tires. There are some variants, but in general, pickup truck is an industry term. It's a definition that people in the auto industry all agree on. That's what an industry term is. Assault weapon is not an industry term. It is a pejorative term created by politicians. They've chosen to define it based on how scary a gun looks, essentially, is what it is. So there's no such thing. But I wanted to tell a quick story about Harmeet Dillon. Years ago, before San Diego County gun owners, I was getting involved in Second Amendment activism, and I started to get more involved in the local Republican Party here in San Diego. They asked me to come give a talk. So I did. I gave a speech in front of their central committee. There were probably 150 or so people there. And I talked about how to talk about the Second Amendment and how important the Second Amendment was. Frankly, back then, this was probably around 2010, nobody in San Diego County was paying attention to the Second Amendment. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, it really was not a part of the political discussion. So I was trying to introduce them to the concept of the idea. And by the way, some hack reporter totally destroyed me after my talk. It was really, really ridiculous. And I actually approached him after. It was a whole big thing. But in general, the talk went really, really well. The next speaker was Harmeet Dillon. Harmeet Dillon talked about how her parents were fairly recent immigrants to the United States, and that they settled in the South to begin with, and that they were actually threatened. There were real threats, and they got a big taste of how the Second Amendment is beneficial and important to them. They fully embraced being Americans, all the rights afforded to them, and she gave a nice talk that she didn't plan on giving on how important the Second Amendment was. And I've always been very appreciative for someone in her position at the time. I think she was like the second chair, first vice chair, something like that, of the state Republican Party, and she was there to talk about her new position. And instead, she gave up a good 5 minutes to make sure to reinforce the importance of the Second Amendment after I had talked about it. She's real deal. She's done a really good job, and I really respect the fact that she is in charge of treating the Second Amendment like it should be treated, which is, of course, a civil right. So I'd love to have her on the show. I think she's doing a fantastic job. I know she's super busy and there's a lot going on, but man, is this good news. For the Chicago Sun-Times to talk about how a civil rights attorney who works for the Department of Justice is going to go talk to a court about how unconstitutional an assault weapons ban is. If you had told me 10 years ago, or hell, 5 years ago, that this is where we'd be, I wouldn't believe you. So it's amazingly good news. It's going to lead to amazingly good decisions, and I'm super happy. Big shout out to Harmeet Dillon.
Fantastic.
Right?
It's about time.
It's
about time. I know that you've been shouting it, San Diego County owners has been shouting it, lawsuits are happening, but I don't think enough of the fight is wide enough to have made the impact that we needed to make. And so kudos that the fight's continuing on and spreading.
There it is.
That's important.
Elections have consequences.
That's it.
So thank you, Harmeet.
Thank you.
Since 2019, more than 1,400 women have applied to be a part of Not Me CA. What began as a small program has grown into a movement that is empowering women across our community. Since 2021, we've hosted educational shooting socials every month, where about a dozen women at a time come together to learn and to build confidence. We've also granted over a dozen firearms to women who could not afford one, ensuring that cost is never a barrier to safety. Our work has been recognized at the highest level in San Diego County, and in 2023, the County Board of Supervisors honored Not Me SD with a proclamation, and in 2024, the City of Escondido did the same. But the real reward comes from the lives that we've impacted. We offer a series of classes from Stop the Bleed to pepper spray and situational awareness and women's self-defense, alongside with firearms training and CCW support. Survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault know they have a safe place to turn, and every participant is paired with a mentor to guide them and support them every step of the way. At Not Me CA, our mission is clear: to give women the courage, knowledge, and power. Created by women for women, we are here to ensure that every woman has the tools, training, and confidence that she needs to protect herself and to live without fear. But we cannot do this work alone. We need your help. Your donations directly provide training, mentorship, and even firearms to women who otherwise would have no way to protect themselves. Every dollar you give equips another woman with safety and with hope. Please join us. Invest into courage, invest into empowerment, and invest into women's safety. Together, we can change lives.
So Second Amendment Foundation is an old school Second Amendment organization that has recently done a lot to reinvigorate. I mean, they have a rich history, and by the looks of what they're doing and the way they're positioning themselves, they have a really bright future, and they have a lot of future leadership in their ranks, and they're doing a great job. They host every year the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and they move it around the country. Last year, if you remember, it was in San Diego, and we had a lot of fun, and there were a lot of San Diego County Gun Owners members that went. This year, last week, it was in Salt Lake City. So I put together a group of folks. We rented a minivan and went to Salt Lake City, and I thought it was a blast. It was amazing. Day one was AmCon, which is the alternative media. Basically, if you're a writer on Second Amendment or you're an influencer of some kind and talk about Second Amendment and say, social media, that sort of thing, then this day, the Friday before GRPC, AmCon was for you. And we had a lot of speakers that talked about, things that writers and influencers need to know about social media, writing, terminology, even some legalities. But I thought the highlight was they did a debate on AI. There were two folks versus two other folks that were hotly debating AI, and I thought that was really super interesting. What did you think, Alicia?
It was. It was. I will tell you, it got a little deeper than I expected it would, because what they did is they like you said, they brought together two sides, and obviously in a debate you're going to have two opposing sides. And so on one side you had two people that believe that AI was a good thing. It's a tool that can be used for good. It has some benefits. And then on the other side, you obviously had someone who was opposed to it. And one of the two that was opposed to it had a really strong, good reason to be opposed to it, because their life has been uprooted through AI, right? And it was pretty powerful both ways. And so I thought it was pretty interesting. It really opened my eyes, especially here in the realm of influencers and those in the media. It really opened, I think, a lot of people's eyes to the realities and the risks and things that are associated with it, even not just even from a business perspective, from a personal perspective.
Yeah, so. And there were definite opinions. Lee Williams was vehemently opposed to any kind of AI
for good reason.
And he's he's a writer. That's his craft. That's his medium. The guy's an artist, and he does a great job. I totally get it. And then Amanda Suffolk, she was basically saying, hey, this is a really powerful and important tool, and we need to embrace it rather than reject it. Otherwise, it's going to be used against us. So I think they both had a really good point.
Yeah.
If I were to summarize the pro and against, I would say that the folks who were pro were basically saying, hey, use this as an administration tool, an organizing tool, a time-saving tool. And the opposed side was saying, don't use this as a content tool.
I think they both really, if you look at both sides, I think really you could put the two together and find the truth.
Yeah.
Because the harm that came from the other side was AI giving essentially a lie about a
making
person.
Up content about something that didn't exist.
Made up content that was given as truth that really led down a path that led to some legal action that it was a problem.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I hope to see in future GRPCs, I hope to see discussions and debates like that, because it was fascinating. I thought it really gave people something to sink their teeth in.
Right. It's one thing to have a person up there at the podium speaking to you, and then it was another thing to see it come to life and to see the interaction and to see it develop and to kind of see it from a different perspective. I think it hit a lot more powerfully than if it was just spoke at.
I was honored they let me talk, which I know is the highlight of everybody's weekend.
Absolutely.
Listening to me for 45 minutes, drone on and on.
Right.
The name of my talk was Walk Softly and Carry a Big Podcast, which basically,
That's funny.
And basically the idea, the Carry a Big Podcast part was how we've used the podcast, we used the show in the past to hold people accountable, use it as a tool for activism. We're not just simply reporting on other things. We do a lot of that because there's a lot of good things that people need to know. But specifically when John Hemmerling ran for sheriff, we really used Gun Owners Radio as a battering ram, as a sledgehammer to make sure that guy didn't win. And sometimes not getting someone elected is an enormous accomplishment.
Yeah.
He was a dangerous guy. I do not think that he should be anywhere near power. So that was the carry a big podcast part. And then the walk softly is we talked about how to talk about the Second Amendment, especially with people who disagree with you. And then, looking at it through the lens of caring and fairness. We care about single moms and we want them to be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
It's not fair that cops are the only ones that get to carry, red dots and flashlights and guns.
Right.
And then I talked a little bit about the FCC and how they're making a lot of noise on clamping down on First Amendment. I just think that's something we need to talk more about and make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
As great as the Trump administration's been for the Second Amendment, I want to make sure that it is equally as great or even better for the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got a lot of positive feedback. It was great.
Yep.
The main event was wonderful. A lot of great speakers. Robin Sandoval from A Girl and a Gun
Yeah.
did a great job.
Keynote speaker, Christian Craighead.
Yeah, talk about that
Pretty
guy.
rad.
How cool was that?
I'd heard of his story. I didn't know a whole lot about it, right? And it was amazing. First
Do you
of all,
know who that is?
No.
Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead.
I actually have his
I'm all
bio
excited.
right here. Can I? Should I just
Please,
read the bio?
go for it.
All right. So, born in Northeast England, Christian Craighead has always taken an unorthodox route, constantly defying the odds stacked against him at every level. I feel like I'm reading a story. Right?
That's
Get cozy
okay.
with your blanket.
That's good.
All right. At the age of 16, he joined the British Army, initially serving in the Fearsome Parachute Regiment, and was then selected for the elite Pathfinder platoon. Craighead's natural get-the-job-done mindset secured him a coveted spot at the pinnacle of most soldiers' dreams, Tier 1 Special Forces.
Yep.
As a senior and highly decorated member of 22 SAS, the British Army Special Mission Unit, known for covert reconnaissance, counterterrorism, and hostage rescue, he participated in an exceptionally high number of high-risk missions and was wounded in action. This hard-earned combat experience underpins his reputation as a renowned counterterrorism and special tactics instructor.
So as if that isn't enough, he's
Right.
a special operations guy. He's in, for Great Britain. As if that isn't enough,
Right.
here's what he's famous for.
In 2019, Craig had single-handedly shifted the outcome of a terrorist attack in Kenya. His actions and leadership during the brutal attack are credited with saving hundreds of lives. Those unauthorized actions earned him global praise as well as an invitation and personal gratitude from the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. After 28 years of service, he retired in 2020 and continues to conduct leadership and specialized training and is sought after for keynote speaking.
Great guy.
Wow.
Do you remember that incident? Do you
No.
remember that? So Kenya, there was a mass murder happening, and there were people in a mall, right?
Yeah.
People in a mall that were getting shot.
Oh.
And somebody caught on camera. I remember seeing pictures of a guy.
There's some footage.
Of a guy, and he was like in a t-shirt and jeans, and he goes to his car, gets all kitted up, grabs his rifle, and goes in
Wow.
and shuts it down. Like saves hundreds of people.
Was it multiple attackers? Was it like a terror?
I believe so. Yeah, and I know that he was hit. He was hit in the arm. He was wounded, and I want to say it was many hours that he spent
Yeah.
wounded and
Wow.
alone and had to fend off on his own.
So we got
Pretty
to,
impressive.
Yeah, we got to hear him speak.
Yeah.
People got to talk to him and get their picture taken, which is always cool. So there's a bunch of Facebook profile pictures
He was
that
a little
now
shorter
include
than
this
I
guy.
thought he would be.
All these guys, I got to tell you, my old man was in the Navy, and he did scuba diving research, and there's a lot of diving when it comes to special operations.
Yeah.
And I met a fair amount of special operations guys in the 80s and 90s, and they were not Rambo and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, he was a regular guy.
Totally regular
Yeah.
guys. A lot of these guys look like CPAs more than they look
Wow.
like superheroes. But anyway, great dude. Good looking dude though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So great speech, great talk. Sarah Weaver from Ruby Ridge, Randy
Yeah.
Weaver's daughter
wow.
was there,
Wow.
and she got to meet Sam the gunman.
So fun.
Yeah, he got to sign her book, and she liked the fact that Sam has a sister named Sarah, and Sarah Weaver had a brother named Sam. So
Right. That was
they
pretty,
connected. It was very cool.
pretty sweet.
But
Yeah.
the real reason, and then all that's great, the real reason to go to GRPC is to meet all the people you can meet. You're in the same room with Masad Ayub, with Doug Hamlin from the NRA, all these movers and shakers. Gene Hoffman from CGF was there. Mark Smith. All these.
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Jared Yanoff from Guns and Gadgets. All these guys are in the room, and you just get to go talk to them. You get to go pick their brain. You get to network. It was really, really amazing. I don't know where it's going to be next year, but we have decided keep tuned.
Yeah.
We're going to have a scholarship, an activist scholarship program, where we raise money specifically to send people from San Diego to GRPC. That's coming up. We're probably going to roll that out in the next 3-4 weeks. You're going to get to donate to send people, activists that are, motivated, from San Diego to
Wherever it is.
They're talking about Chicago. They're talking about Minneapolis. We don't know where it's going to be.
Boston was talked about.
Yeah.
Yep.
But man, this is arrows for your quiver.
I love that.
That's what GRPC is. That gives you arrows for your quiver. Did you go? You were there. In fact, you talked at the AmCon last year, right?
I did.
San Diego.
Yeah.
Was that your first experience?
Was it my first?
At
I actually
GRPC?
don't know. I think I may have gone in 2022, but I'd have to look. I have a very bad short-term memory. I don't remember where I went last year.
I like that you're so active in Second Amendment stuff that you're not even sure which.
Yeah, I'm like, which conference was that? I'm thinking of one that was in Phoenix a couple years ago that I went to.
Yeah, Phoenix was like 3 years ago.
Okay, so that probably was my first one. And then I did the AmCon in San Diego.
And you're going to this one next year, 2026.
As long as it's not at the same time as a friend's wedding or something, yes.
Fantastic. So anyway, check it out. You're going to get to see video on SAF's website. Keep tuned in. Make a contribution once we announce it so that we can send activists to GRPC so that they can be even more effective at what they're doing for the Second Amendment.
Yeah, the networking is powerful. The opportunities are plentiful when you're there, right? You meet other like-minded people. Not only do you get a chance to meet them and to network with them, but you actually can, we saw people putting heads together, people having side conversations, like building relationships and forming ideas and really seeing how they can empower and help and strengthen one another. And it was pretty great.
And we went to Ogden and visited the John Browning.
We did.
John Moses Browning Museum.
That's it.
What'd you pick up there? Is there a little factoid or something that you didn't know before?
Well, is it committed to memory? Oh, I did. I took notes. What's pretty cute is I don't know if we're going to share Sam's picture. Can we share that?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Where he was.
So, it was really cute. We don't know Sam the Gunman, right?
No.
So it was really sweet. Sam was there. He had his notebook ready. His pen was poised. He was taking notes. He was eating up everything that the docent was feeding him. It was pretty awesome.
The docent was eating up everything he was feeding.
Yeah, right.
As
It was
well.
very
I think
sweet.
it was a two-way street there.
So at the museum, one thing that I thought was pretty interesting is, and I was just looking back at my pictures. I took a lot of pictures while I was there. I wasn't really well versed or familiar with a lot of the history of the 1911, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, I wasn't really in the know that there was a 1905, for example, and how the design morphed and changed and how it was improved, and that's how we then led to the 1911. I thought that was the kind of part that I thought was pretty interesting.
It was,
the history.
But that being said, I was actually expecting I thought it was going to be too much 1911.
No, it was one small tiny section.
It was one small tiny section.
That's it. One part of one little wall.
He did so much
Yeah.
that the 1911 was just a small tiny section, including trying to make a lever action semi-automatic and inventing the over-under shotgun. It was really, really amazing. So anyway. GRPC, stay tuned. You might get the opportunity to go with us. Regardless, we want you to go. We want you to, donate and help us send people, but we also want you to go. I think this is an enormously important event for activists. Again, arrows for your quiver, meaning that they will give you little things that you can do and say that will be effective, and then you can come back and, do it with San Diego County Gunners and Gunners Radio, or do it on your own, but do it.
Right. We talk about San Diego here, and when you're there, you learn from other people in other areas that have had success and how they did it, and you can really put together good plans.
There you go.
It's powerful.
Hey, I just wanted to show you guys a really cool product really quick at Cargo down in El Cajon. They come up with a really cool solution if you have multiple pistols and you have a bunch of magazines and you want to transport it safely. So they have these inserts, okay, and you can carry mags and 2 pistols per insert. And in this container, you can carry 3 inserts so that you have 6 total. And not only can you have these 6 pistols in one small, like just slightly bigger than a briefcase container, but then you can also carry your magazines separately locked from your firearms to and from the range. I think that's very, very cool. So come down El Cajon, check out Cargo. These guys have them for sale. I was very impressed and just wanted to make this video real quick. Okay, one of the things we've been talking about, this is obviously a Second Amendment show, but it's also a political show, and we've been talking about political violence. In fact, this isn't the first time we've mentioned this. We've talked about it a lot for the last couple of years on how political violence is becoming way too common, and that there has been an environment that's been fostered, especially by the political left, and how they've basically created an environment where political violence seems okay. They've even done things like supported those who are committing political violence. For example, when there were riots in Minnesota, Kamala Harris actually helped contribute to a fund to defend those who were out there rioting. I mean, there have been real steps taken, real rhetoric and real steps taken to, again, foster this environment of left-wing political violence. So I just found an article from MSN.com, surprisingly enough, titled "Left-Wing Terrorism is on the Rise." So they're not just calling it political violence, they're calling it terrorism. And they're indicating left-wing terrorism. No matter how hard ideologues try to exclusively blame their political foes for acts of political violence, the truth is that violent extremists today emerge from across the political spectrum. We have studied this problem and believe that our data can help illuminate an issue too often defined by partisan finger-pointing as part of a study to be published this week by the Center for Strategic and International Studies. We compiled and analyzed data sent from 750 attacks and plots in the United States from January 1st, 1994 to July 4th, 2025. Our research focuses only on instances of terrorism, which we define as attacks or plots by non-state actor attempting to achieve a political end and to exert a psychological influence on a broad population. Among other details, the data set includes the types of weapons used, the intended targets, and the number of fatalities and the ideology of the perpetrators. So they're really taking a very thorough analysis of exactly what's going on over a big time period. Following that trend, according to our analyst, violence from the left accounted for 4 plots and attacks from 94 to 2000 compared to, wait a minute here. Yeah, okay, so left accounted for 4 plots and attacks from 94 to 2000 compared to 144 on the right. So in other words, what they're saying is that it was far more common in the late 90s for right-wing political folks to commit acts of violence. However, what they go on to say is that as of late, that has completely shifted. This year, however, violence on the right has plummeted. Only one right-wing terrorist incident occurred in the first 6 months of 2025, the June assassination of Minnesota State Legislator Melissa Horman and her husband, which I'd argue, it was against somebody on the left, but I'm not sure they could really truly assign the person who did that as being right-wing. The extraordinary drop-off is too recent to allow any definitive explanations. The number of terrorist incidents often fluctuates over short periods, but Trump's reelection could be a key factor. His victory deflated election conspiracies that had once motivated many extremists. Since then, Trump has taken a maximal approach on some of the far right's highest priority issues. So under Trump, right-wing extremists may feel less need to mobilize because they sense that their interests are already being taken care of. But Kirk's death could change this calculus. Conservatives, including members of Congress and online influencers, use the assassinated to support the contention that the left is engaged in war. Okay, so let's see. What we really want to talk about here is so they go on to talk about how that it's not equal anymore. Basically, that the right back in the 90s was committing acts of violence, but now the left has come on super strong, and in fact, there's outperforming the right when it comes to political violence. So what we want to talk about, and I want to show that even after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the rhetoric from the left hasn't really stopped like we'd hope it was. People haven't gotten the message, or at least aren't acting on the message, or don't understand the complexities of the message. There are still left-wing, leaders and talking heads and politicians and influencers that are continuing to create an environment where violence from the left is okay. When you tell people that, hey, the right is evil, or they're trying to kill you, or they're trying to take your natural rights away, when you compare them to Nazis and Hitler and that sort of thing, you create an environment where they believe that the only thing left to do is commit acts of violence. I mean, how did we stop the Nazis? We had to invade Europe. So when you compare them to such extremism, even though they're talking about simple political issues, then of course you're going to create an environment where people that maybe are a little on the fringe, but even people that aren't necessarily on the fringe, and that's one thing that I don't think folks talk about enough, is a lot of times with some kind of random shooting or a mass shooting or some kind of murder that makes the headlines, it becomes really clear that the person who committed it was crazy, and you can kind of chalk it up to a mental health issue. With Charlie Kirk, it's not clear that this person had mental health issues. In fact, it looked like they did not have mental health issues at all. It looks like this person was simply motivated by politics, and that makes it very, very different, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So let's look at, and I thought this was actually a pretty funny example. Mark Ruffalo is a guy, he's an actor, he's the Hulk. And for people who aren't familiar, he's had some, some extremely important acting chops in the Hulk, and hard-hitting movies like 13 going on 30. Not exactly, I guess he is, though. I was going to say not exactly A-list, but I think this guy is. I think Mark Ruffalo is A-list, but certainly isn't, respected for his, his acting chops. He's been in a couple of silly movies, but he decided to weigh in on politics. And what's funny is he was being interviewed by a guy named Rainn Wilson, who was in the show The Office. And Rainn Wilson's interview basically started out by saying, hey, we got to do something different. Things have gotten too heated. Things have gotten too extreme. And so he talks to Mark Ruffalo. But the funny thing about this interview that you're going to see is that Mark doesn't listen at all. He continues on with this rhetoric that I think is pretty fair to say, led to extreme acts of violence. So let's watch the interview.
But this is the problem in the world. Like, where do we go when violence is the only solution?
Yeah.
Like, that's the final solution. That ethos is what we're going to embrace.
Yeah.
Which is where we're at now. I mean, people are walking around with weapons of war. This is a weapon of war. I mean, I don't know.
Pause it. So this part, he goes into blaming it on guns. People are walking around with weapons of war. So he's got to get his stab in on the Second Amendment. So continue.
What killed him. But more often than not, we're being seen people killed with weapons of war that are nothing.
It was a sniper rifle. So this
for
was
nothing
planned.
more than to kill human beings.
Yeah.
That's what these weapons are for, you know. And so when we keep signing off on that as a nation. We're signing off on more and more of when you keep signing off on those weapons being acceptable, you're actually tacitly signing off on them being used on human beings as the ultimate solution to conflict, any kind of conflict.
Okay, pause it. Okay, so first off, neither one of these guys know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to guns.
No.
He used a deer rifle. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, technically this thing at one point was used in war, but that was about 20 years ago. But now it's a deer hunting rifle. That's number one. But what I want you to really pay attention to, okay, you know, it's okay. It's fun. It's fun to poke fun at actors. Yeah, they don't know anything about rifles. They don't know anything about firearms. Okay, get it. But tacitly signed off on. So he basically just said, without too much interpretation, he basically said, hey, look, if you continue to be okay with the Second Amendment, then you continue to say that political violence is okay and that murder is okay and that assassinations are okay. So he's now telling everybody who follows him, which, by the way, he has a big following on X, on Twitter. He's saying, hey, you know what? If you know somebody who's pro-Second Amendment, you know somebody who's okay with murder. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not an interpretation of what he said. That's exactly what he just said. Yeah. So keep going.
Ideological conflict. If that's why I don't know why he was murdered. I'm assuming that's what it was. I don't know why.
We don't know. Yeah.
We see, you know, in Minnesota. We haven't been talking about those people who were murdered. Those are political assassinations, you know? This is like, now we've had 2 in this year alone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, pause for a second. So people keep bringing up what was horrible, sad, and tragic. In fact, this article talked about it too. There was a lawmaker in Minnesota who was murdered because she was a lawmaker. Now, there's a lot more to it. But what he just said was, we're not hearing anything about it. Yeah, you're right, Mark. No one on the right stood up and cheered and celebrated when someone on the left was murdered. You know, you're making the point that what you're doing is wrong. You know, we were all quiet and said, yeah. The other thing is, it's just not equal. You know, a state lawmaker that no one had ever heard of, compared with Charlie Kirk and the movement and momentum that he had, it's just not equal. To compare the two is pretty ludicrous. Or what I should say is to compare the results of the two, you know, to that, hey, this country should have an equal reaction for a lawmaker that no one's ever heard of compared to, you know, an activist that so many people see on a daily basis. And that's somehow, I mean, it's just completely ridiculous to compare the two or to equal, you know, to pretend that they're equal in any way.
Yeah, I think most people had a strong opinion about Charlie Kirk, whether it was positive or negative. A lot of people had heard of him in the United States. A lot of people had a strong opinion about him. And the main difference, I think, is that obviously they're both political violence. They're both awful.
Yep.
However, one was done on camera in front of tons of people. I know somebody who was there with her and her daughter were there when he was murdered, and they will live with that experience for the rest of their life. It was a traumatic event for a lot of people. There were instantly videos online showing the moment that he was killed. We didn't get any of that with the Minnesota lawmakers. We got a lot of, you know, articles and stuff after the fact saying, oh, they were brutally killed, this is what happened. But there were not videos and videos and videos just everywhere on social media showing the moment of death. I think that although Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump are not equal politically, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, that was a similar as far as the outrage, the impact, the
scope.
Yeah, the scope of it, the amount of people that were there who were watching it happen in real life. Like, that feels a lot different to me than finding out the next day or 2 days later that somebody that you've never heard of was politically, you know, murdered, assassinated in their home. it doesn't have the same kind of social media churn effect that this had.
Right. Now, exactly. And I still don't, honestly, it's sad and tragic. It's horrible that this lawmaker in Minnesota died. I don't even remember her name. I didn't know her name before. I can't remember her name now. They quite simply are on a scale. They aren't similar. But it is important to note that, yeah, you're right, Mark Ruffalo. Nobody stood up and cheered like the sick people that you are representing, the way that they did it. But here's where things get really, really interesting. Now, listen very closely to what is about to happen. Listen to the path that Mark Ruffalo goes down and what Rainn kind of stops him from saying. So go ahead and play it.
It's terrifying because, first of all, it's lacking empathy, you know? It's like it's dehumanizing to us. And we see what we see overseas. When you take away every other form of disagreement, when you take away people's voices, when you take away their ability to express themselves, when you take away their freedoms, when you take away their rights, when you know.
Or even if you create an environment of fear where people feel fearful to express themselves, whether on the political right.
Okay. The path I think that Mark Ruffalo was going down and was saved by Rainn, either intentionally or unintentionally, Ruffalo was saying, hey, look, when you take away people's voice, when you take away their right, the path he was going down was, what are they left with other than political violence?
Yeah.
That's where he was going. And then Rainn turned it around and said, yeah, like the way that they, murdered Charlie Kirk, and now people are afraid to stand up because they murdered Charlie Kirk. I think that Rainn saved him from making an atrociously horrible statement. Now keep rolling and watch and see what else he says here.
Right of the political left, like, oh, I can't go to college campuses now and speak my opinion?
Yes.
Right or wrong?
Where does that head? Where is the final destination of that?
He's still going down the path.
It's bloodshed.
And it's start.
There it is.
My fear for this is that it's starting a cycle on both the right and the left.
That scares me.
Like Gandhi, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind.
Yes.
Kind of continued.
We're done with the video. So I wanted to show you that he hasn't learned in any way. And if you look at Mark Ruffalo's statements, if you look at his Twitter feed, if you look at his past interviews, this guy is a left-wing extremist. And I can't say for sure that that's the path he was going down.
It felt like it.
It felt like it, though. Yeah. He was basically saying, hey, look, when you continue to disagree with the left and they continue to be mad at you, they're gonna, what's left to do other than political violence? Where Rainn kind of turned it around and was like, yeah, when somebody gets killed on a college campus, then it's going to make people less likely to talk about their political views, and kind of saved him.
I agree. He kind of saved him. But did you hear how Rainn also was saying now people on the left are afraid to go to college campuses?
Yeah.
Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
A conservative just got killed on a college campus. Why are we talking about what the left is afraid to talk about? They're not afraid. They're talking about whatever they want. All the professors are on the left.
Right.
Everybody on a college campus is left.
Yeah. No one on the left got assassinated.
Yeah. Yes.
Biden didn't get shot in the ear. Trump did.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, they're not. None of them have learned. By the way, he goes on to talk about. Actually, can you keep playing it a little bit? No, too late. Okay, so he goes on to say, "Hey, look." Mark Ruffalo goes on to say, "Hey, look, you got to understand. I know what it's like to be the victim of gun violence." And he talks about how his brother was killed by gun violence, and Rainn Wilson kind of goes, "Oh, gee," it gives him this credibility. So it turns out, I looked it up, if you pull up this article on ABC News, Mark Ruffalo's brother, they are pretty sure, was killed when he was playing Russian roulette.
Wow.
So it wasn't a suicide. I don't think it was a suicide. It doesn't appear to be a murder, although they're still a little fuzzy on that. But in this article by ABC News, Mark Ruffalo's brother was killed when he was playing Russian roulette, which, there you go, lawyer, Ruffalo died playing with gun. And it goes on to talk about how Scott Ruffalo was probably playing Russian roulette when he shot himself. I don't think that's gun violence.
No, it's a little different. I think, if you swallow a knife and you die, like, you were dumb, that wasn't a stabbing.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of a difference there.
But anyway, the important thing I wanted to show you is that, first off, why are we listening to actors on this?
Yeah.
Rainn Wilson and Mark Ruffalo, Dwight Schrute, right? Was that his name from The Office? And Hulk Smash. These are the people that were like, yeah, man, let's have them weigh in. Where do they feel the world is going? I don't know. They're actors. Who cares? They read words off of paper. Nobody wants to know what their opinion is, or nor should they care.
And I feel very similarly to how I feel about politicians who are weighing in on gun control but still have guards. Like, is Mark going to say, oh, my security guards shouldn't carry guns now? Like, no. He still wants to be protected with guns. He just doesn't want us to be protected.
He doesn't want
guns.
us to be, and most importantly, he's not going to change his tone. He's not going to change the words that he uses. Clearly, in this interview, he's going to continue to create an environment where basically he was making an excuse for left-wing political violence. That's exactly what he was doing in this interview. I think that Rainn Wilson interrupted him and kind of softened the blow, but Mark Ruffalo hasn't learned a thing. He's going to continue to create an environment where left-wing political violence is, he even said the only solution is in his words. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Okay, we do have a court victory to bring you straight from SAF, Second Amendment Foundation, and FPC2, Firearms Policy Coalition. This was out of Texas. September 30th, 2025, the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas has ruled in favor of the Second Amendment Foundation and its partners in a case challenging the ban on possessing and carrying firearms in the United States post offices. That's awesome. In granting summary judgment in favor of SAF, the court granted both declaratory and injunctive relief, declaring the ban unconstitutional and preventing its enforcement for the plaintiffs, including SAF, Firearms Policy Coalition, and some of its other partners and their members. Okay, so this was filed in June 2024. The lawsuit challenged the ban on firearms carry in U.S. post offices and on postal property. SAF is joined in the case. It's FPC versus Bondi by the Firearms Policy Coalition and two private citizens. Quote, millions of people across the country visit the U.S. Post Office as part of their daily routine, said SAF Executive Director Adam Kraut. As we've stated throughout this case, there is no historical tradition of banning firearms at post offices. So why does he say that? Why does he say there is no historic tradition? Why did he use that terminology?
Bruin,
right.
Bruin.
It's got to be a history or in the text or tradition. And peaceable Americans all over the country should not be forced to choose between using basic postal services and their exercise of their fundamental rights. Today's ruling is an encouraging step towards restoring these rights. The court determines that both 18 U.S.C. 930 and 39 CFR 232(1) are inconsistent with principles that underpin the nation's regulatory tradition. Thus, they are unconstitutional as applied to carrying firearms inside an ordinary post office or on post office property. San Diego County Gun Owners, our original mailing address was a post office downtown. And I realized I couldn't carry there.
right?
So I had to switch to a private, store and set up our address there. I mean, this is real. People go to the post office.
Right. People use post office boxes for businesses. Lots of money and checks will come through that mail when they go to pick it up every day.
Yeah.
Creates a situation.
I actually have a postal annex box for that exact purpose because I didn't want to use the post office. I pay more for my postal annex box than the post office box I used to have.
Yeah, me too. I'm at a UPS store, same thing. So the question is, can I carry in a post office here in San Diego? No, you can't. You can't do that yet. But what I really wanted to point out is there is a development when it comes to Second Amendment cases.
There is movement.
There is movement, but there's a development, there's an advancement in the actual arguments, and this is a big example of that and a huge win. It's a huge step forward. What they're doing now is saying, okay, what is a sensitive area? Because for years, the post office has said, hey, we're a sensitive area. Okay, nobody argued, people just accepted. But now that they are abusing that term, specifically the state of California and some other states are saying, hey, you know what, we're going to make every place a sensitive area. Now that they've completely overstepped their authority, it's time to go in and say, wait a minute, what exactly is a sensitive area? What is it about a post office that makes it a sensitive area? If a gun goes off, are there fumes that might ignite? Is there something about a post office that makes it dangerous when it comes to firearms? And the answer is no. Okay, well, is there some kind of security thing? Like in a prison, for example, are there 400 people in there that have proven that they're not law abiding and are dangerous, and therefore you can't have a firearm? No, that's not the case either. All right, well then is there huge security? Are they basically saying, hey, don't worry about your own safety, your own self-defense. We're going to take care of you. We're going to have metal detectors. We're going to have security. And this is now a sensitive area. Nope, not that either. Okay, well, what about, say, a courtroom where it's high emotions, and people are dealing with life problems, that sort of thing? Nope. Turns out a post office is not in any way a sensitive area. And I think that exercise, that legal and intellectual exercise of saying, hey, what exactly is a sensitive area? That's important. And that's the next big step in how we're going to get these sensitive, quote unquote, sensitive areas removed from California, SB2 specifically, where they basically said, hey, everywhere outside of your home is a sensitive area because we said so. So that's the importance of this case. It's not so much, hey, well, yeah, this doesn't apply to us in San Diego because I can't go to the post office with my CCW. Yeah, that's true. But I wanted to show you where the argument's going, where the people who are fighting for your Second Amendment rights are taking the legal argument and basically shoving it right in the face of those who are against your Second Amendment and against the fact that you're a gun owner, and saying, hey, prove to us why this is a sensitive area, and that's an important development.
No, I agree completely. I think one of the things that Bruin did that we probably don't notice or we don't see on a regular basis is that people who are arrested and, charged with felonies, for carrying into their place of work, if they're a postal worker, there have been U.S. district judges who cited Bruin in their determination to not, press charges.
Put them in jail.
Put them in prison.
Rule against them.
Exactly.
Right.
And so there was a couple of different cases in 2022, 2023, 2024, where postal workers had either firearms in their vehicles or had, concealed carry permits and had a concealed carry firearm on their body and somehow got caught, got charged. And so, I think it's cool to see that Bruin is having a much bigger impact in individual people's lives than probably any of us really recognize, just thinking about Bruin as the huge win it was in general for Second Amendment. It's also, keeping people out of prison that probably don't deserve it. So,
and added to this, there's another big bonus factoid here. CNN reports that the Supreme Court agreed to decide if states may bar people from carrying guns on private property without permission from the property owner, wading into a thorny, CNN describes it as a thorny Second Amendment dispute that could expand carry rights in malls, restaurants, and stores. I disagree that it's thorny. I think it's crystal clear, number one. The other thing is, could expand rights in malls, restaurants, and stores. No, it's not going to expand it. It's going to
cease to
restore it.
Right.
We have the right and had the right. It's these extremists just in the last year or two that have decided to infringe on that right. It's it's the first major Second Amendment case the 6-3 conservative court has agreed to hear in more than a year. Man, I remember when you hadn't heard a Second Amendment case by the Supreme Court in decades, and now this is the first case in a year.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be a lot more. Anyway, I think this is really good news. This is going to definitely build on what was just decided with this post office thing. And again, the case is gonna be made. What is it about a restaurant that makes it sensitive? Why is a restaurant sensitive? Why is even a bar or a mall or a store? Why are they a sensitive area?
Yeah.
And truly, people that are making these decisions that, hey, this is a sensitive area, therefore we don't want firearms, don't know anything about firearms. Like,
Right.
what are they afraid of? What is the fear of, someone who has been trained and they're sane and they're law abiding? What is the fear of them carrying concealed? If you don't understand guns and you don't understand carry permits and training, all that, if you don't understand that, you're probably the one making a law that says, hey, this is not okay in my restaurant or mall or store.